cannot attend today. We are here. Item number three, who's going to take it, Mr. Vela?
Good afternoon, Mr. Angel. If we could, we wanted to see if we could move item number 6 to the front, to the top of the agenda. We do have the representatives from Train here that will be making a presentation to the board.
That's fine. Item number 6, please, Mr. Vela, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Cesar Vela, Vice President of Finance for the record. Board members, today we'll be discussing agenda item 8K as part of the board meeting this Thursday. And that is to request approval for the Martinez Fine Arts Center HVAC upgrade project. The recommendations that will be brought forward to the board on Thursday is to have the board approve a contract with Train for HVAC upgrades at the Martinez Fine Arts Center. We do have to make an adjustment to the agenda. We were looking at doing a by-board cooperative contract. However, it'll be under Omnia cooperative contract. And that is the method that provides the best value to the college. Also, review the project objects as presented by Train and administration, and that the board approve the option that provides the best value to the college, and also review the financing options as presented by administration, and that the board approve the option that provides the best value for the college. A little background on this project. Currently, the Martinez Fine Arts Center HVAC system is 20 years old, so it is reaching end of life. So we are that system, again, we're looking at technology that's 20 years old. On August 26, 2021, the board approved for Laredo College to engage Train to conduct a study and to develop a design, construction, and installation strategy that would enable the college to implement a program of work that will address the current cooling needs associated with the Hvac, BPA, and MFA buildings. Train has concluded their study, and they're here this afternoon to make a presentation to the board on their findings and recommendations. Now, again, the study was done to conducted to investigate costs, energy efficiency, and ongoing maintenance cost implications of the following scenarios. And one of the scenarios was just to upgrade the MFA center, HVAC, and Train cooling plant. And this is a standalone plant at the MFA. We did look at two alternates. Alternate one was to do a consolidation of the Martinez Fine Arts, the Hvac building, and the BPA to include a thermal storage tank. At this time, due to the current economic conditions, that alternate option is not being recommended to move forward. And then we have alternate 2, which would include the consolidation of the Martinez Fine Arts Center, the Hvac, and the BPA, excluding the thermal storage tank. Now, when we look at the budgetary considerations, we're looking, depending on the option that is selected, we're looking from $3.2 million to $7 million project. Again, we do have the representatives from Train, and at this time, I will defer to them so that they can provide you the details of the study and their findings. Thank you.
Thank you for having us, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Raymond Jones is a local rep. And Craig Powell is from the Dallas office. Right now, I'm in San Antonio. So the team that we're looking at the study that
having this gentleman aboard, representatives from college. My name is Train Gibbons. Train has been the vendor for the past 9 or 10 years as a vendor to some of your master plan projects and directly for your service and some of your projects that you've done directly to Train. So I want to cover the agenda real quick with you, and I'm going to hand it off to my partners. So the project scope is the Martinez Fine Arts. And then we'll move into the possible consolidation of the bulk chiller plants, which is located on A and B. And then we'll move into the project development drawings that we did as part of your study. And then we'll move to the preliminary project schedule and how long it will take. And then we'll go through some benefits of having the consolidation of the plants put together. I'll hand off to Brad Bright.
We'll go back to this because the picture's worth 1,000 words.
I'll go back to this because the picture's worth 1,000 words. Just so we're clear from a terminology standpoint, the cup, central utility plant or chillers are generally outside and provide the chilled water that gets pumped into the building. Then inside, you've got air handling units and VAV boxes, and that distributes the cold air to keep people comfortable. So what we have at the Martinez Fine Arts is some existing smaller chillers that are dedicated to just that building. So as part of our study that y'all hired us to do is to evaluate what all needs to be upgraded, what's the most economical way to do it to get the best bang for the buck for the college. And then you have this other central plant that is over at the Hvac and virtual arts. And we wanted to see if there was a value proposition for combining the central plants. What we discovered as part of the Martinez Fine Arts specifically was that we had some air handling units that were fairly old. They were the original put in with the building. Needed to be upgraded. The VAV boxes that actually deliver the air into the space needed to be upgraded, and your controls were not talking to your central system. It was difficult for your teammates on the facility side to keep those running when something broke down, because those parts are pretty obsolete. So our proposal includes upgrading the air handling units, upgrading the controls, upgrading the boiler, which is critical from a dehumidification standpoint, upgrading your pumps, upgrading some of your starters or variable speed drives, your electronic components, and for sure integrating it into your controls. So from an energy management perspective, from a remote access perspective, your team is able to see what's going on with this building, because as I understand it, you use it heavily both with the college and from a community at large, having many functions go through there. So it's a pretty critical building, sometimes used after hours. Having the access to be able to see what's going on is important to your facilities team. As I said, we looked at what you're looking at now is kind of the bird's eye view, and in the top right there is the current central plant that serves the academic and the virtual arts building. It has 3 chillers. What we were looking to do was to see if there's some value in adding a chiller to that existing central plant, which requires some mechanical and electrical upgrades. We have to add some infrastructure and chill water piping going between the central plant over to the MFA building. We also looked at, as was Mr. Bella said, was a thermal energy storage plant. So currently you have a large thermal energy chilled water storage plant, which is almost like a battery when it comes to the HVAC industry, on your main central plant. You have no way to store energy or to store chilled water at the Academic and Virtual Fine Arts Central Plant. As Mr. Vela said, we considered trying to add the thermal energy storage, but at this time, the market's not there, but there is a value proposition in having an additional chiller and combining all of the chilled water into this one central plant. As I mentioned, it does require new electrical service, some underground piping, additional controls, provide some flexibility in reliability, so you'll have some redundancy that you don't currently have. And it provides you for the capability of the runway to have future thermal energy storage. Craig, do you want to jump in and talk a little bit about the project development plans?
Thank you. Appreciate the chance to talk to y'all, and Mr. Zepeda warned me, since I have an engineering bent, to be crisp, so I will try my best to heed his advice. As Brad said, we produced a lot of information so that we can help the college make an informed decision. I actually lead a team of engineer types, construction experts, and we look at a lot of projects like this. And I will add to what Brad said earlier, thermal storage tanks are there really to let you have an opportunity to buy electric power much cheaper. And it's not just the cost of the power for the air conditioning system, but it's overall all the kilowatt hours you spend. And that's because as you shift that electrical load that you're making the chilled water from the most expensive part of the day to after hours, you can imagine when you have wind farms and things like that, and other loads, unloading, more efficient energy plants, from electric companies are able to offer you better rates. And that's a 3-hour seminar that I don't think y'all want to get into, but your energy advisor who works closely with Mr. Vela was actually involved in putting that first tank in. So I'm already going too long, so I'm going to speed it up. What you see here on the screen are some samples of the drawings we worked with. Actually, the engineer that did your LEAC building and also the VPA. And one of the benefits of working with Sean Rodriguez was he understands, if you see that blue line in the upper right, that's piping that's going underground. It's important to know what's in the ground so that we can do that planning properly. And then another important graphic on here, if you look to the left there, directly opposite, is the new electrical service that's required for consolidating these plants. And that's not something that's something you go put in the ground immediately, and that's part of the forward-looking aspect of consolidating these plants. Thank you. And again, these are just a continuation of the drawings. And if you'll look to the upper right, that's actually the power during several days. And you'll see in the middle there between item 1 and 2 where it's peaking. And then you'll see where it drops off around 2. That drop is what your existing thermal storage tank is doing now. And that's allowing you to save significant energy dollars. And this project's meant to take that curve and even flatten it out more. We're projecting when thermal storage is added to this, that the savings could be up to 20% of what you're spending currently, which is significant. Next slide. So we did mention the schedule, and I've collapsed a lot of this in the interest of brevity. But one of the key things we've realized over the last year and a half is costs are not stable. And we have gone further than we would have otherwise gone with our engineering effort, so that once we get moving forward, we need to order any equipment that has a lead time within a week. So we have an engineer poised to do that, and we don't want to risk cost overruns. And that's where a major part of our risk resides on this project. So this is an eye test, just take my word for it. The information that wraps around the bottom has piqued the interest of Mr. Zepeda. He's one of the strongest advocates of these thermal storage tanks. And I will say with the higher ed facilities, I've been doing these energy projects. I'm a lot older than I look, since about 1990. And higher ed facilities, best in class, will have these tanks on campus. UT Austin, as you're driving at 2 miles an hour, heading north on 35, you'll see a large tank just like the one y'all have. So there's no reason we can't be best in class here as well. Some of the key benefits, I mentioned some already, but probably one of the more surprising benefits is establishing what amounts to a second central plant in this vicinity allows you tremendous benefits from a master plan perspective. Once you have the power in place and add the additional cooling that this project involves, you can expand the square footage. In the next slide, I'll show you what I mean by that pretty significantly. So when you add a building, for example, in that proximity, should you do so, that budget would not have to include a lot of the HVAC chiller plant type costs. So that's of tremendous benefit. We talked about the fact that it allows you to buy cheaper power. And then finally, one that's not obvious, putting this new chiller in with the LEAC and BPA, 3 existing chillers, lets us get extended life out of those. Since this new chiller has technology that makes it much more efficient than those other 3, we're only going to run those other 3 sparingly. And for that reason, they're 12 years in that range. Around here, chillers may last 15 to 18. So we anticipate we can get another 5 years of useful life out of those, and hopefully longer, especially if we're continuing the maintenance quality that we're doing. And I think I have one more slide unless we have any questions.
One thing I want to say about the study that we did and the engineering that we've already done sets you up to be ready for a shovel-ready project. So although the thermal energy storage tank doesn't make sense pro forma-wise today, everybody knows people are moving like crazy to Texas. It's hotter than heck here of late. Doesn't seem to be getting any cooler. Power plants are not building more power plants right now because regulations are not allowing them to expand to keep up with the rate that people are moving in. So the reserve capability of the power plants is going down. When that happens, and they have money to invest, but they can't invest it in new power plants, they're going to turn around and invest it in owners who have shovel-ready projects that can reduce the demand, that can shift the demand from daytime to nighttime, which is what thermal energy storage allows us to do. So that's the key value proposition that I see. I saw it when I supported Alamo College. They built 3 of these over the last 8 to 10 years, starting with the American Recovery Act. They had projects ready to go. There was limited funds available, but they were ready to act, and they got the funding that they needed in order to support those. And they've been the beneficiary, as well as the power company. But Alamo College benefited financially from being ready to go. And this is what this project will do for y'all.
One last benefit, should you be interested in the environment, when you shift the energy consumption to the non-peak periods, the generators that are generating that at that time period, the emissions are much lower. So there is an air quality community benefit aspect to these projects. And then just to kind of make the point here, and I'll just hit a couple of points here. What you see in the upper left is if we were to do just the replacement of the chillers at the MFA building and not consolidate, you would have the ability to add roughly 29,000 square feet of extra space to that solution. If we consolidate the plants and only add 1 300-ton chiller, the electrical infrastructure will accommodate up to 3 additional 300-ton chillers. But if you just did what we're advocating today, you could add another 10,000 square feet to these 2 plants. And then the interesting thing is, once we add all the chillers that this consolidated plant can have and consider the thermal storage tank, we can add almost 400,000 square feet to this central location. And that's, when we said earlier, the ability to establish a second central plant is kind of what we're talking about there.
That's a long-term vision. We're not sure what the growth is going to look like for Laredo College, but this gives you runway that's just an added benefit that I wanted you to be aware of. With that, that's the end of our presentation. Do you have any questions that we can answer, help clarify?
As Brad said, right now is not the time to build a thermal tank, but we strongly believe that now is the time to integrate these buildings, particularly instead of just sinking some money and just doing the overhaul of the MFA. We got an opportunity to get set up at that end of the campus to eventually put a second thermal tank on this campus. Like they say, switch the load into the low rates at night, and then just basically pumping chilled water, not utilizing chillers during the day. That's in a nutshell what we're looking at.
So if I'm understanding, right now, if we go with the proposed, it's to benefit the MFA only, but then to have the capability to then push out to the other buildings as well, right? That's what you're proposing?
So as Craig mentioned, the chiller that we're putting in represents about the base load that we see for all three buildings for a large majority of the cooling. And that new chiller will be more efficient by an order of magnitude than the existing three chillers serving the Hvac and BPA. So we have a side benefit. It's not enough to necessarily move forward with the project by itself, but there is a side benefit in reliability and lower operating costs because it's a much more efficient chiller. As Craig said, you'll also be able to defer the replacement cost of some of those three chillers because this one chiller is going to be able to carry the load quite a bit of the time. So we'll be able to put those in kind of a backup mode and not run them as hard.
Okay, and what's the lifespan, what's the lifespan of the current chillers that we have? right
So
now?
a typical air-cooled chiller is 15 to 20 years.
Okay, and if we install this, it'll give it, that's the 5 years that you said that it could possibly be the additional 5 extra years.
Correct, yes,
to
sir.
those.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good question. Anybody else? Again, we thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your time. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, part of the agenda or the approvals that we're asking is that the board also approve a financing plan to be able to address this project.
Can you go through the financing part, Mr. Vela?
Yes, sir. And as a matter of fact, I wanted to point out to the proposal that we received from Train.
Okay,
And if you go to page 6 of the proposal, you will see that the total cost or total price, including the performance and payment bonds, is $6,973,992 to do this project. The 6.9 million includes 100,000 of owner controlled contingency in case there are any unexpected items during the project. Now, you also received a copy of the options that are available to finance the project.
picture these right here, right?
Yes, and there are, currently we are proposing 3 options. Now, option A, we do have set aside $2 million from the Facilities Master Plan Phase 3 bond. And originally, when we looked at the bond projects, the idea back then was to replace the MFA equipment, the standalone equipment. So basically, it was just going to be a replacement of the equipment. Unfortunately, from the time that we set this plan in motion to now, the cost of just doing that one option has gone up $1.2 million. So $1.2 million. So right now, just doing the replacement of the MFA chiller and the handling units and all the controls, we're looking at about $3.2 million. Now, one thing to consider is that if in the future we would want to move forward with a thermal storage tank, if we go with that option of just replacing the MFA, then we would not be ready to do the thermal storage tank in the future. So essentially, that $3.2 million investment would go to waste because we would have to reinvest on a 300-ton chiller, do the connections, and then add the thermal storage tank. So when Train, as part of the presentation, they did mention that by doing this, we're preparing for the future if we ever want to explore that option of the thermal storage tank. The beauty of this is that we will be able to do that in the future here and also at the South Campus, because we're already set at the South Campus for a thermal storage tank. So if in the future we look at another facilities master plan and we go out for bonds, that could be one of the options that we could explore. And again, as we look at the cost of electricity, and we know that because demand is increasing, we're going to have a hard time negotiating favorable rates. I think that this option in the future will make sense. So when we look at the options for financing, again, the $2 million that we currently have from the bond money, one option is to use $5 million out of the general operating fund balance, and that would give you the $7 million that is needed for this project. Now, when we look at the impact of the fund balance, like I've mentioned in the past, we have the cash basis impact and the GAAP basis impact. GAAP basis, again, taking into account the liabilities that we have for the retirement and the health insurance plans. So when we look at the cash basis, at the end of the year, last year, we had 56.7 million in the fund balance. We are projecting that for this year, we'll add about 5.5 million from savings. Now, the board already approved to use 1.3 million back in June for the equipment purchases for fiscal year 2023. And then if we take into account and we move forward with saying, okay, let's approve using 5 million from savings for this project, we would have a projected fund balance on cash basis at August 31st, 2022 of 55,946,996. Now, when we look at the GAAP basis, and that's taking into account the liabilities that we have a negative fund balance of 2.5 million as of August 31st. We're projecting again the savings of 5.5 million, equipment purchases of 1.3, and then utilizing the 5 million for this project would put us at about 3.3 million. Now, I do have to mention that this is before GASB 68 and 75 adjustments. So those adjustments are done at the end of the fiscal year. That's when TRS and ERS makes the data available of how much our liability will increase for the year or decrease depending on the different scenarios that may be presented. So we would be looking at 3.3 again, taking note that we still have to be making those adjustments for the liabilities at the end of the year. So that would be the impact to the fund balance by going with option A. Now, I did consult with our financial advisor, and one option, if we decide to go with the option A, which is using the fund balance, is that at the time that we issue out the first payment for this project, we can bring a resolution to the board for the board to adopt a resolution that if in the future, within the next 3 years, we go out for a financing, we could opt to reimburse the fund balance for this project using that financing. So we got 3 years from the start or from the time that the check is issued, the first check, to pass a resolution that the board would say, okay, if we do a future financing, we want to include this project so that we can reimburse ourselves for the costs. That is an option that's available. Now, as far as looking at the general operating fund, fund balance budget impact for the next years, there would be none, because we would not be financing anything. In other words, coming from savings, so we would not need to budget for those annual payments. Now, option B, again, would be utilizing the 2 million from the bond. And then instead of going for the 5 million out of the fund balance, we would do 3 million out of the fund balance and finance 2 million. And again, for a total of 7 million. Now, the general operating fund balance impact would be $2 million less than option A. So instead of having a $55.9 million fund balance, we would have 57.9 million in the fund balance. On the GAAP basis, same thing, it would be a $2 million impact less from option A. So instead of 3.3 million negative fund balance at the end of this fiscal year, we would be looking at 1.3 million. Now, we did go out for quotes on the financing options, and we attached the copies of the proposals. Again, American Financing, First American, is quoting a rate of 3.06%. Now, and that is at a 10-year finance option. This is a private placing financing, which means that it is a bank that will be financing the project. Now, Mr. Tijerina from the Tijerina, Galvan, and Lawrence has also presented 3 options for us to consider when it comes to financing. If you look at page 3, page 3 gives you the balances. In other words, these are the current existing payments that we have. So right now, our existing debt has us at 3.2 million, or almost 3.3 million, and this is maintenance tax note debt payments. These are the annual debt payments. So right now, currently, we're paying 3.2 million, or almost 3.3 million in maintenance tax notes. Now, if you turn the page, and that is page 4, that is case A, what is labeled as case A, and that's a 10-year finance option. And again, this is a private placing finance, which would be issued out to a bank. So from a $3.3 million annual payment, we would go to 3.9 million. So that's 670,396 increase to the annual payment. Again, this is not something that I would recommend us considering. Now, the current M&O rate, the maintenance and operating tax rate, would support this payment of 670,000, the additional 670,000. So you're looking at the tax rate, which is currently 2 cents out of the tax rate is going to pay maintenance tax notes. So because valuations are going up, for right now, the current valuations for this year are at 16.1 billion. For next year, we're looking at 19.1 billion. So again, the M&O tax rate would be able to provide the funds to pay the additional 670,000. The only concern here is that it is coming from the M&O side of it. So you're looking at impacting operations. So 670,000 would not be available to address operational needs. It would have to go to address this payment. Now, he did give us on page 5 another option, which is a 15-year option. And you can see that on the 15-year option, the annual payment for the additional 5.5 million would go down from 670,000 to 492,000. Again, this is not something that I would recommend. Looking at the cash flow, I still feel that increase would impact the operations. And then the last option that he gave us was a 20-year maintenance tax note. And again, it would go from 490,000 approximately to 405,000. And that would be a 20-year tax note. The only issue with the 20-year is that most banks will not go for 20 years. The most likely scenario will be a 10-year financing through a private placement. Now, the 20-year, then we would have to go for an open market financing, which would take a little bit longer. It would be a little bit, the cost of doing that financing would be a little bit higher because we would then have to pay for the credit rating for this issuance, and also we would most likely need to secure bond insurance for it. So again, those are the options or the options that we looked at when it came to financing. Again, option B would be finance $2 million. And then the impact to the general operating fund balance, to the general operating budget would be $239,280 by doing the $2 million financing. And this, of course, is using the best rate that we have available. So right now, we currently have a rate of 3.06, which is locked. There's no commitment. We went ahead and locked it pending board approval. So if the board were to accept option B, then we would already be set for this financing at 3.06%. And then the last option, which is option C, and that would be basically using the 2 million from the bond proceeds and then financing the 5 million that is needed. Again, this would be last scenario. I would not recommend this one because we would be looking at an annual payment of $598,200 using the best rate. And again, this would impact the general operating budget for the next 10 years. So we would need to set aside close to $600,000 just to cover this payment.
Chair recognizes Judge Martinez.
Based on these different options, which is the one that you best recommend or suggest?
My recommendation, and the way you're seeing the recommendations are actually the ones that my office is recommending is to go with option A.
Option A?
Option A. And again, A, and that would be using 5 million from the fund balance to self-fund the project. Again, we do have the option to pass a resolution if in the future, within the next 3 years, we were to go out for a financing, we would then opt to reimburse ourselves the fund and to recover the 5 million.
I really like that option that is being recommended by our finance. We do have a very, very strong fund balance, and so basically what he's recommending that we sort of dip into it during this interim period. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that in effect will actually be for the best interest for the college, and certainly this is what I would suggest based on the recommendation that is being made right now.
And the option, the A that you're discussing, Mr. Vela, is it like A1 because of the option of being able to do a
resolution?
Resolution. Is it A or A1, or is it A? Does A already include the resolution? The
No.
possibility of a resolution.
Option A is again, basically just using the 5 million, and then the board has that option that as soon as within 60 days of issuing the first payment for the project, the board can pass a resolution to reimburse the fund balance in case we go out for another financing within the next 3 years. So again, once that is done, once the project is kicked off and we receive the first request for payment, then we can bring an item to the board for the board to consider a resolution to reimburse ourselves in case we were to go out for a new bond in the future. And again, we have 3 years from the date that we issue that first payment for the project. Now, one other consideration, again, is to modify the resolution that the board approved where the board approved using 20% of annual savings to go to the deferred maintenance fund. We could modify that resolution and say, well, we want to pay ourselves back for this project. So instead of doing 20%, we could do 10% or 50%. And then the difference go back to reimbursing ourselves for this project. Again, this is a one-time project. So again, it's not going to be a recurring expense. So it is, again, a project that we see will benefit us for the future. Again, looking at how things are going with the rates for electricity, and obviously being prepared for us to, in the future, add a thermal storage tank here at the main campus to address these three facilities. Now, like I mentioned, for the south campus, we already have that. It's just, again, if we, in the future, go out for another bond to address additional facilities, master plan items that may be looked at, then that could be a possibility. So again, just doing the $3.2 million investment, we're only going to address the MFA. But if we go this route, then we're preparing ourselves for the future to be able to tackle possible increases in rates and obviously to make our HVAC system more efficient.
And I don't know if it was pointed out, but the lifespan of this storage tank is around
Oh,
the life 40 to 50 years.
It's a concrete-based tank, similar to what you see for residential areas for the water.
Okay, and usually what's the annual maintenance cost on a tank like that for if we would be able to go like that? If we would want to go that route, what's the annual maintenance cost on that tank itself?
So the tank itself doesn't have anything that you have to do to it. It has
So it's just-
additional controls associated with it, and valves that you need to exercise. But other than that,
Please come to the mic.
I'm sorry. So no
It's
maintenance
a
cost.
40 to 50-year life, no maintenance on the tank itself. From a controls perspective, it has some isolation valves that were open or closed depending on whether it's in use or not. So those would need to be stroked, but that's a minimal annual cost.
Okay,
But there's no painting, there's nothing really to break in a concrete tank.
okay. And then the control system, would it last the 40, 50 years?
The actual valves, if you take care of them, will last a long time. 40 to 50 years is
We would
probably a
have to replace
stretch.
them at
You might, yes, sir, but that's the valves for that type of deal are a couple $1,000.
Okay.
So it's not that significant of an item.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, based on what is being recommended by our financial advisor, as well as what we already have heard, my advice is to, when we get into the regular board meeting, that
To go
we
with option A.
acknowledge the recommendation of Mr. Vela and go through with that. I feel that would be frankly the best option that we ought to follow through as far as.
We'll make that an observation, Judge.
Yes, financially, we are very, very strong. We are quite solvent. And this recommendation actually is, it will not have a negative impact on our finances.
Yes, sir.
I agree with Judge Martinez
Okay.
on the recommendation.
No question, then we'll take it to the full board, Mr. Vela.
Thank you.
Item number 3. Mr. Vela.
Yes, members of the board, this next item is to.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you.
This next item is to request the approval for, of repairs to the Fort Macintosh campus emergency phones. It is, part of the approval, it is part of, being recommended as a deferred maintenance project. The the repairs of the emergency phone towers are here at the main campus. We are asking that we approve a contract with Gray Bar under the contract number 3 EV 2370. The total cost for repairs is $95,364.58. Funding for the project is coming from the technology support equipment budget for fiscal year 2022. And that's 35,000 that are currently in the this year's budget. And then $60,364.58 from the deferred maintenance funds. Included with your board agenda is an update on the balance for the deferred maintenance projects. The beginning balance for the deferred maintenance was $2,410,854. The board approved the Fort Macintosh parking lot paving project for $735,000. The board also approved the Sierra Science Complex chill water line upgrade at a cost of $252,609.55. And then this current request, if approved, would be for $60,364.58. So the balance after all the assigned projects for the deferred maintenance fund would be at $1,362,879.87. Now, I do have Mr. Albert Chavez here. If you have any questions regarding the actual scope and what the work will entail on this security campus emergency phones.
Any questions? No, we're good. Item number 4, Mr. Cepeda and Mr. Pais, Laredo College construction projects update.
I want to go over the current projects that we got ongoing. The first one was called the overhaul of the HVAC system at the MFA, but we want to expand that, and that's what the training guys covered. The other one is the ongoing damage repair to the chapel. It's been a long time because we had to kind of basically redesign the system. It was chill water based on the rafters. That's what caused all the problems and ruined the floor, walls, everything. So, but we're done with the actual air handler redesign. That project cost us $228,950. That's completed. Now, since we didn't want to go and since there was a lot of movement on the floor and the walls of the chapel, we decided to wait on the floor than the wall. We have actually, since we completed the HVAC overhaul or redesign and replace, we did the wall repairs and paint and everything in-house. That has been completed. We're now, we have had walkthroughs with contractors that specialize on the flooring. So we're waiting a quote on that. We actually found the guy that originally did the flooring. His name is Evan Luna. He is super expert on wood flooring. He actually did wood floor in my house. Then the P14, the Old Fort Hospital restoration, that's restoring the building to lease it to the Imaginarium. The cost is $656,800. That the construction manager at risk, Linedecker, has submitted an amendment and adding the project to the facilities master plan phase 3. The project is already on the way. We estimate its completion is about 25%. Imaginarium has actually, we have been able to negotiate an extension. Actually, I just got this news all the way to the end of the year. So, but we're expecting to move the Imaginarium in December 1st. But the heat's off with them in the mall. We had a bit of rough negotiations with the mall, and they didn't want to see us leave, and so, but they're actually, at the end of the day, they were good guys about it, so. I speak with expertise because I'm on the board of the Imaginarium. The P24, the art building remodeling, that's the building we're gonna house the Department of Public Safety, the DPS. We're gonna have 37 officers in that building. The cost is $227,333. Satucci Construction won the bid and has been handed the purchase order notice to proceed. We did a final walkthrough last week with the DPS construction department that came in. And so construction actually is beginning this week. Timeline is 5 to 6 months. We're being a little sort of conservative in that because a lot of things could go wrong with an old building like that. So anyway. The Macintosh paving project, we call it we're looking at paving both campuses. Phase 1 would be this campus, streets, parking lots. This phase 2 would be the LC South parking lots and streets. But we're pending completion of hopefully the majority of phase 3, because there's a lot of use on the parking lots of storing equipment, supplies, and everything. And so it's not. What we may do is there's some severe potholing in the entrances and some things that we probably can do in the interim to, what we do with the entrances, we basically cement them. American Contracting and Roofing won the bid. Contract is in place. PO purchase order and notice to proceed was given on 6/27. I had a discussion with the contractor about the timing, and I was a little optimistic when I mentioned it. And it looks like maybe 6 to 10 months. There's a lot of work in this campus. And as Cesar pointed out, that's been budgeted out of the deferred maintenance project, $735,000. We also have a nagging chiller loop leak repair on the south loop of this campus. We have to shut down the loop. It's going to affect the Lo Garcia building, the Maravillo Gym, Martin building, West building, Memorial Hall, Laird Hall, the La Garza building, and part of the library. This is an emergency repair. We now have all the parts from the contractor in. Apparently there's a lot of long lead items on some of the specialty items. What we're going to do is going to reroute like a huge concrete on top of the junction of the two 10-inch lines. So we decided we're just going to go around them. And so we had to order a lot of parts the contractor had to order a lot of parts to do that repair. We're planning to do, I'm going to put out a notice. We're planning to do that this weekend from July 1st through July 4th. We think that the contractor can do the repair in 3 days. And as of 1 p.m. on Friday, we'll have to drain those two chiller lines, and we'll have AC in all these buildings I just mentioned. So anyway, there's a huge hole, and we've been pumping the water out every morning, twice a day we pump out the water. But we're hoping to get that resolved this weekend. That's it for now. We got any questions?
Thank you.
On the buildings that are gonna be closed, we will be closing them out and not have any students or staff in there, right?
Yeah.
On those days.
I would just confirm this morning, the timing with the contractor, Sunbelt. Exactly when he wants to close. You want to do it the Thursday night, and I said, can't do it. We're working, Friday morning. We're gonna have to work all the way in through 4th of July or whatever it takes. And, so I got that confirmed. And, so I'm gonna put out a note to everybody that's on these, that will have to be out of these buildings. I mean, the buildings will be there, I just, there won't be any AC. I mean, the buildings sometimes retain the coolness for a while, but then after a while, if it's 107 degrees outside, it's not very pleasant, so. Anyway, any more questions?
No, sir.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pais?
Good afternoon. I'm Tobias, project manager for Laredo College. Today I'm bringing you an update on all our construction projects, either ongoing or in the planning stages. So here we have a current list of the construction projects for the college that are in progress. As mentioned, some of them are active, ongoing, and some of them are in the planning stage. Quite a few for the South Campus. We currently have the South Campus flat roof and soffit and LED improvements ongoing. That work will be ongoing for the next couple of months. This contract has been going on since last summer. Next, we have a new contract also, which is the standing seam metal roof and the bell tower restoration and improvements, also for the South Campus. That contract currently just got started and will be going on for the next 3 to 4 months. The South Campus CDL pad under CMAR Woodlander Construction, that's an ongoing project. Currently at about 25%. Have a little bit more detail in my slides. The next project is a diesel and auto collision shop expansion. That was recently awarded to Landecker under CMAR with a guaranteed maximum price. The next several projects on the list are having to do with law enforcement and the entitled cover several facilities. One of them is the protective service facility renovations. We also have at the South Campus Building C, the second floor for instructional classroom renovations. The Ruben Garcia facility renovations, the Lopez facility renovations. And then we have the Fort Mac, Lamar Bruni, Regatta environmental renovation and additions. On this slide, show you a couple of ongoing work at the South Campus. This project is currently at about 70% complete, and it involves the placement of the metal soffit and the LED upgrades for the South Campus. As mentioned before in several meetings that we've already had, this kind of alleviates the vision problems that we have at the South Campus. And we have a lot cleaner surfaces on the walking area for the students and staff. Here's a sample of one of the rooftops. This is the Camilo Prada facility. This is actually the new membrane on the rooftop. This is some of the work that took place campus wide. And this work has been 100% completed. We did get notified earlier today that we do have a final inspection by Tremco on July 5th. It will be on the campus doing their final walkthrough, so we can go ahead and receive our 20-year warranty. Another building, this is building C, one of the larger buildings on the South Campus. Also an example of the finish that we do have on that rooftop now. The metal roof and the bell tower restoration project is at about 10% complete. This project just got going. A couple of photographs of some of the men working up on the roof, power washing taking place. We will also be doing some improvements to the bell tower. We have had a number of years in the past, we've had water leaks in that elevator shaft, and so the improvements that we have scheduled for this particular bell tower will go ahead and alleviate and remove all of those water leak issues that we've had in the past several years. The CDL pad, driving pad for the commercial instructional courses that take place at the South Campus, we currently have about 20% complete. We do have manpower this morning, actually setting up rebar guidelines for the concrete curb. That's one of the first phases that takes place before we start pouring the concrete slab itself. I predict probably in the next couple of weeks, we should be done with the perimeter concrete, and then we'll go ahead and start seeing the concrete pad work done by Laredo Construction. So I'm bringing you back a quick update on the diesel and auto collision shop expansion project. This contract was awarded to Landecker, the GMP CMAR project. Plans have been revised according to our accepted GMP. The plans were recently released to the contractor. They were also in the process of submitting the set of plans to the City of Laredo for a building permit. The contractor is going out for hard bids. That will take place here in the next several weeks. Bids are due back in their office mid-July. So my estimate is we'll probably commence work on this particular project probably in August of 2022. A couple of photographs of some of the work that's being taking place in the process of getting ready for the diesel expansion. We did have recently the boring company do boring samples around the perimeter where we'll have some new facilities going up. The cleaning process for these two departments, auto collision and diesel shop, have been taking place during the month of June. Work continues. As you can see, some of the items have been relocated to parking areas adjacent to the facility. And the interior courtyard right now that will have some major changes to it has been cleaned up. And they continue to prepare themselves for the improvements to their facilities. This next slide to tell you a little bit about some of the other facilities that are being worked on. These facilities are being handled through Hvac Architects. They're working on these particular facilities, which is the South Campus Protective Service Facility, the Building C, second floor, Ruben Garcia, and the Lopez. So Memo Cavazos currently is working on programming and the design phase. We have had several meetings with department heads, and we will continue to have progress plan schedule meetings in the month of July. The Laredo College, Fort Mac, Lamar, Bruni, Vergara environmental improvements and addition projects. This particular project is being handled by Memo Cavazos, Hvac Architects. We are currently in the middle of finalizing programming and design plans. We've had numerous meetings with department heads and staff, which have been great help on their immediate needs for this facility. This particular project is scheduled probably toward the end of July, so we can have a completed GMP package for Landecker to get their hands on and go ahead and start working on GMP for us. I predict probably the month of August, it'll be in Landecker's hands. So the following month, we can probably plan on seeing a GMP guaranteed maximum price coming to the board for review and for possible approval. This is a rendering done by Colossus Architects on one particular new building for the facility. This is a multi-purpose facility. And this particular facility will be able to hold about 100 persons inside of it during different activities. It is 4,600 square feet. It does have several spaces in it. This is a back rendering with the open outdoor patio. Apologize for the graphic, but it's a part of the plans that have been submitted to my office from Colossus' office. This is the floor plan, going back to some of the information of the facility. We do have an open area on the interior for about 100 people. It does have a freestanding serving kitchen, storage area, men's and women's restrooms, and a vestibule for receiving merchandise on the backside. And that receiving area is covered for deliveries. Outside, we do have a gathering area for about 100 people with patio tables as well.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Price, can you go back real quick? On that area, is the intent to be able to use it for, and I don't know if you would be able to answer, but on the, where you have like the inside of it, the next one, that one, is it for whenever we receive students? Is it gonna be kind of like an entertainment to say could eat or?
Yeah,
what is-
it's really being designed as a multi-purpose, so it can be used as an open space. We do have a storage area where we can roll in tables and chairs, get them out of the way, and take them out whenever needed. But right now, currently, like they do have camps going on,
Okay,
so it's very hard for them to actually house these kids in
Okay.
a climate controlled environment. So this particular facility will meet their needs that they have right now for these kids.
and you're saying it's around 100 students?
About 100 persons.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I may, just for the record, Benita Ramirez, the plan is to use this also for, not just for camps, but possibly for adult retreats, for businesses where they could come out and have some kind of leadership development and kind of do the out in the wilderness kind of thing. And also to receive, when people come in for tours, to be able to do the lecture first and then take them out on the tour. And right now, they're kind of just standing out there under the sun.
Yes.
And so this will give them the opportunity to provide a place where actual instruction can take place before they go out and do the hands-on. And we're also able to feed them.
Okay. So then we're looking at probably like whatever organization that would want to rent it out, like the Rio Grande.
I'm looking at renting, yes.
Okay. So that's gonna be the purpose of it.
Yeah, so it does open up the options to be used for many things, you know.
Yeah. And this is, and I'm sorry, this is taking into account I guess the use of all that area that the staff has been able to say, this is the needs that we foresee is the best thing for us, right?
Right, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So during the programming and meeting with them, we went through all of their facilities, the conditions of them, their immediate needs, their wish list. So we've gone and laid it out, and we've had to cut back because of budgets and stuff, but we've given them pretty much everything that they would need at this point to meet the needs of the people that visit the facility and also on how they operate. This particular building is another new facility on their property there at the Environmental Center. And this is an animal care clinic, which they currently do not have. So they kind of do everything out of almost a unconditioned little shack. So this is kind of a lot better improvements for that need that they currently have. Little floor plan of the facility. So it's got an animal care area, it's got an exam room, a janitor's closet, a handicap restroom, and a storage area. And it is climate controlled for them.
Do
And
we
that's
have a vet that comes in?
I would not know.
I think they mentioned at the time they do get vet, and they even get the Parks and Wildlife Department coming in. So they do have people that visit and bring in injured
We just need
animals and things
the
that they
facility.
want to care for. Yeah.
But we don't have a vet on staff, right?
No.
No, no, we don't. So before I end my presentation, I do have a quick update on the surveillance camera project going on at the South Campus. It's not part of my PowerPoint, but I do have the information here in front of me. I'll share with you all. So the South Campus is currently going through a major upgrade on surveillance cameras, and we do have an estimated of about 125 cameras going up at South Campus. And we do have 5 emergency phone pole mount locations and 1 freestanding alone location. Currently, the current status right now of the project is that we do have 125 data drops for the cameras have already been installed by the contractor. We do have 62 cameras that have arrived and are being installed at building C, D, E, F, and G. And we're working with the vendor to determine the estimated time arrival for delivery for the remaining 63 cameras that are on back order. But the contractor is currently on site working. All of their equipment was taken out of the container because of the heat outside, and it's sitting in my office. So I'm the keeper of all that equipment, but I volunteered my office because I wanted to make sure that it was located at a secure location. So my door is always locked. I have very minimal people going in, so they come in to get what they need for the day, and they go back and do their work. But that work is currently ongoing.
What was the cost of that, Mr. Price?
Yeah, we currently are under budget, so it's about $650.
And does this include like the screens and everything that people are gonna be looking at the camera?
No, this particular job is, project is just surveillance cameras.
Okay.
It does include some monitors? Oh, yeah, it does include the monitoring for the system. Yeah, those are going up inside the PD office at the South Campus.
Okay.
So they do have monitors to display all of these cameras that are gonna be coming online. I've got Mr. Chavez here.
Good afternoon, Albert Chavez, Senior Director of Information Technology. The project does include 2 large monitors that are being installed at the Campus Police Department office at the south location, so they can monitor all the cameras in real time.
And for whatever type of emergency, the police department at the main campus will have access to those cameras as well?
That's correct. So both locations have access to
Each other.
each other's cameras. They're all part of the same system.
Okay, good. All right. Any questions? Judge?
So it's about to hear that, that's very good.
Thank you.
We
Thank
needed
you.
it, frankly,
Yes.
be
Yes.
honest about it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Item number 5. Is that the same? Is it different?
It's a different item, sir. But before we move on to the next item, I just wanted to point out, we did provide you with a copy of the update on the finance of the facilities master plan, phase 3.
Okay.
And I'll just quickly just go over some of the items. Again, the top portion are all our completed projects. And that amounts to approximately $80 million. So out of the $100 million, 80 million or 80% has already been completed. As Mr. Pais mentioned right now, the projects that are in progress, which are the roof repairs at the South Campus. We do have one item that will be brought forward for approval, which is the South Campus AV equipment. And that is, I believe, the next item on the agenda. Again, the truck driving range project is underway at the South Campus. The security upgrade, which is the one that we were just finished discussing, the cameras, and the bell tower and metal roof repairs. Now, we currently have some projects that are currently either on design or proposed. Again, Mr. Pais mentioned that we currently are working on the design for the Marbury Vergara Environmental Center. Now, for that, we have a budget of $3.8 million, and that includes both the hard costs and soft costs. The expansion to the diesel shop, the board has already approved the GMAX. And the total, the budget for that is 5.6 million, and that includes again both hard costs and soft costs. Some of the projects that are currently proposed as part of the 100 million is the some equipment for the more vocational building, boardroom, audiovisual equipment and furniture, and also some furniture for the Hvac at the for the student areas. Now, we do also have approximately 1.2 million right now that we have set aside for the South Campus furniture. I do want to point out that as we're looking at this project, we do have the concern that some of these budgets may not be pretty much in line with what the contractor may come back once they review the scope of work. So right now, the 1.2 million that we have set aside for the furniture, that's kind of a placeholder right now, and that may be utilized to try to accommodate some of the differences that we may see once the GMAXs come in. Again, we are working, we have identified the furniture needs for the South Campus. And again, we've had discussions as part of our internal meetings that although we know some of the needs, we're gonna have to prioritize areas. And those most likely will be the classroom areas at this point. Like I mentioned, the other project that we have for the South Campus is the AV equipment. And that's the next item. And we're looking at providing or upgrading all the AV equipment for 45 classrooms at the South Campus. But again, completed projects, 80 million. Currently in progress, about 7.7 million, and then we have 15.5 million that are currently either in design process or proposed. We have approximately 102.2 million of the facilities master plan phase 3 projects already either have been properly encumbered for. Again, the 2.2 million additional, has been the interest revenue that has been generated from the $100 million bond, which have been reinvested into these facilities master plan projects. Any questions on the numbers?
Yes, sir. Any questions? No. Item number 5, Mr. Vela.
Yes, this next item is just requesting that the board approve the purchase of audiovisual equipment for the Laredo College South Campus in the amount of $560,079.45. The equipment is being purchased from Hvac using a TIPS contract number 200904. Again, as we mentioned, the funding is coming from the Facilities Master Plan Phase 3 projects. We did go out and looked at 2 vendors. Again, Hvac is providing the best value for the equipment. And we're looking to upgrade the equipment for 45 classrooms at the South Campus. Any questions on this side?
No, Judge?
No.
Okay. No questions. I believe item number 7, Mr. Vela as well.
Yes, and I'll ask Mr. Chavez to present this item. Again, this is, we're asking that the board approve a contract for the fiber infrastructure project. And this is a facilities master plan phase 3 project. The total cost is $722,611. Currently, we have budgeted for this project 1.5 million. So the difference will be funds that will be available to address the needs of the other projects. Again, I'll go ahead and defer to Mr. Chavez to provide the details on what the scope of work will be.
Good afternoon, Albert Chavez, Senior Director of Information Technology. As part of the submission, we included the detailed scope of work that was provided to the contractors. Basically, what we're going to do at the main campus, we're going to be upgrading all of our fiber infrastructure at the campus, which connects all of our buildings. On the diagrams that are on the packet, it shows the interconnectivity between the buildings that we currently have in place. Right now, the fiber technology that we have is from the early 2000s, and it does have some limitations into how fast our backbone can be. So right now it's limited to one gig. So doing these enhancements will allow us to upgrade our backbone to support technologies such as 40 gig uplink speed for our backbone. And it does include also three buildings in the South Campus that when those particular buildings were built, the fiber was specified to match what we had at this campus. So we did include upgrading those buildings in the South Campus to the latest technology.
And the monies are coming from the master plan on phase 3, right, Mr. Vela? Correct.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Any questions, Judge? No, no questions. I believe that concludes our meeting. So, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. It's exactly 1:23 p.m. Thank you all.